Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer Security Solutions, and today we're going to be talking about how to install a traffic cabinet lock and upgrade it with a Cyberlock cylinder, as well as go over a few best practices that we've discovered over a couple years of putting this lock in. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at what is required to actually replace this cylinder. You'll just need a small Phillips head screwdriver, the new lock that you're going to be putting on from Cyberlock, and one of the old locks, typically one that is in a batch. We'll discuss that more in just a moment. So the first thing that you'll do is take the two faceplate screws off here. The key is not required. You can go ahead and take that out to get it out of your way. So these two screws here. You'll want to remove those, set them aside. We'll need them again in a moment. It'll allow the whole faceplate with the existing cylinder to lift up, and you can set the housing off to the side. Then once you have this faceplate, there's two more screws right on the back of the cylinder here. We'll need to remove those. We have found with some of these locks that these screws in the back here are not machine thread. If that is the case, any Cyberlock traffic cabinet lock that comes from Pfeiffer directly, we include some additional machine thread screws that you can use for this particular part. But if not, these screws are a 4-40 and 3/16 inch long. So with those two removed, you have two separate pieces, so you can set the old cylinder aside. You can take the Cyberlock cylinder out, you twist the cap, pull it open. So again, you see we've got some extra screws that we include, the Cyberlock cylinder, and a few stickers that we'll use for labeling. So we can set the stickers aside for now. You'll take the new lock, orient the turning tailpiece down, and it will fit in that hole and match up the two screw holes. So you'll take, again, you want the machine thread screws. So if the ones that came out of it, this solid brass, are machine thread, you can just return those exact same ones back. If not, you want to use the two that are included with the lock from Pfeiffer. You want to get these guys snug, but not too tight. You don't want to strip the threads out. Okay, now once that is done, you're going to return the faceplate back to the lock body. I'm going to set these excess screws back in the box. And then what you need to line up is there's a raised piece right here. That raised piece needs to go into the tailpiece that is in the lock body. Typically, it'll be touching the bottom here. This is a free moving part, so it can move around. It'll have to be lined back up with where it needs to be. So typically it'll be touching the bottom with it straight up. So you'll just align the faceplate back. As long as everything is back in place, you'll see that all three of the little tabs are flush with the bottom. If any one piece, typically this bottom one, is sticking up, then you do not have that tail piece aligned correctly. You'll need to remove the faceplate and ensure that this piece is in the correct spot. Once it's back where it belongs, you'll return the two original screws to their holes. Again, you want to get these snug but not too tight. You may also want to use some Loctite or some other kind of thread lock with these screws, as well as the ones on the back of the cylinder, just to prevent anything from backing out. And now you have a Cyberlock cylinder that will work this lock. This means that when the technician goes out to replace this, they can just replace the entire assembly. They'll only have these 4 screws to take out of the old one, put the new one up in place, and put those 4 screws back in place. It's a very quick process once they're there. Now the last thing that we typically like to do, there are some stickers included with this that have the serial number of that electronic lock. So we like to make sure that this is a nice clean surface free of any grease or oil. You attach that sticker to the back there. And then we'll take like an extra piece of packing tape or something that can adhere to the back. Cut it down so that it's not obscuring the holes. So that helps weatherize and protect that label for a good long while. Now, if you were pre-assigning these locks, you could also etch or Sharpie or label the lock itself with where it's going. But another process that we've used in the past is we'll get these stickers. We'll take one of the remaining ones. We'll put one of them on the inside of the door where the lock is going to marry the two together. And then we'll take the final one with a pre-built Excel sheet such as this. It includes the cabinet number, what cross street it's going, and then a space for the locks. And then say this was the first lock, we'll take that last sticker and adhere it in the location that it belongs. Then the technician can give this sheet back to the person that is assigning access, and you know exactly which serial number is at which intersection. We've typically found the best method to use when installing these locks is to do a small run of them. So say you have 1,000 total locks. You'd want to bring in a small order first, say 50 or 100, and then do the bench process first of replacing the actual cylinder. This is especially good because it would reduce the amount of time that your technicians would be required to be in the intersection to install this lock. And you certainly wouldn't want to lose one of these small screws in the grass right next to the road. You would then take the locks that you have replaced of that initial run, and as you're replacing them, you would bring those back into the office somewhere centrally located and start swapping out those cylinders in shop as well. This has typically worked best to reduce the number of locks that you have hanging, and it gives you a good count of which locks are actually working and which locks you may need to replace. It also gives you a few of those spares if you do have some locks that just are not functioning the way that they should. This has been a short tutorial on how to upgrade a traffic cabinet lock with a Cyberlock cylinder. It's a fairly simple process, but there are a few things to pay attention to. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.